All right, high rollers, more UFC talk for you today. A myriad of topics to go through, including Khabib Nrmagomedov. What a performance at UFC 219. Utter domination in his bout with a very competitive and flashy fighter, Edson Barboza. Very dangerous man, but Khabib made it look easy. Cris Cyborg bloodies up Holly Holm, plus UFC 220. Can't wait for this heavyweight title fight between Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou. That should be a doozy. Our main man is back, UFC junkie Michael Mahar, at Michael Marbled on Twitter. He's all over his MMA action. Michael, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being our high roller today.
Thanks for having me back. Pleasure to be here.
Let's start with the big performances at UFC 219, Khabib and Cyborg. Cris Cyborg stayed so patient in that title fight. First time she's ever gone 5 rounds. Took some shots, but she was just too good for Holly Holm. What did you think of that performance?
I thought both fighters had a great performance. I think it really showed that Holly was the highest level opposition that Cyborg has faced thus far. Most skilled, toughest probably. I think it's a great example of why you've got the weight class, because when you've got remotely evenly skilled opponents, and one's got a size advantage, they're almost always going to win.
I mean, she really looked good. Her mouth was a bit bloodied at the end, but Cyborg really dominated that fight. It seemed like every time Holly came in, Cyborg just sort of dodged and punched or was the first one to land. I mean, it was pretty good stand-up on her part.
Absolutely. I mean, she definitely would take some to land some, but I mean, she was ending up on the better side of it. Now, I mean, I don't know if I would say it was super dominant. Like, I think it was a clear Cyborg win, but I think the fight was a lot closer than the scorecards are going to make it look.
Didn't 2 of the judges have it 48-47? I mean, I thought that's surprising because when I was watching in real time, I thought Cyborg was first to the punch and landing the stronger shots, but I guess in punch count and strikes landed, it was pretty close.
I mean, as I recall, Cyborg had a definitive advantage in, I believe, every round, although I thought when the fight was going on, I thought it was like 3-1 Cyborg, but I could kind of imagine maybe it could be 2-2, depending on judges seeing it differently. If, from what I recall, it actually was 2-2 on 2 of the scorecards heading into the 5th, but in the end, I think the clear winner got the proper decision.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I thought it was clear, and I was surprised to learn that 2 rounds went to Holly. I thought maybe the first round, but wow, 2-2 heading to the 5th. She could have won that fight.
Absolutely.
Okay, now there's talk Amanda Nunes is looking for a fight with Cyborg, but it seems to me, I watched the post-fight news conference, and Cyborg wants her 145 division to grow, and she really doesn't want to fight a Brazilian, it seems, so I think the next path for her is someone else than Amanda Nunes. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that Nunes will probably be, quote-unquote, in the mix in regards to fighters that you will see Cyborg up against in the next couple of years, provided that Nunes has enough success. I don't know if Nunes it'd be the pick that Cyborg and or the UFC want right now, but it might be what they end up going with when you look at the other factors. Like, I expect that you'll probably see Cat Zingano in discussion for fighting a Cyborg, but right now I believe she's working on some injury stuff. I've heard of Megan Anderson has never fought in the UFC, but she's the most accomplished in terms of Invicta 145 belt. There's another fighter, Cindy Dandois, could be pronouncing that improperly. She's a Belgian fighter that's beaten Megan Anderson and sort of bounces around between the 135 and 145. I figure she'll be in there in the mix as well, but she probably needs to get a little something else going. And I mean, you might see Holly in there again too. I don't really think we're going to see Ronda. I don't really think that we're going to see anybody else in the top 10 to 15 of 135, because a lot of those fighters that have maybe stalled out, they might be a little bit closer to making 125, in which case they're probably not looking up.
You know, it wasn't so long ago that people scoffed at the idea of women's MMA, but with Ronda Rousey and the explosion, not only the money, but new divisions popping up. You now got a big name in Cris Cyborg topping the 145 division. You know, it's a new division, and you know that division is going to grow because when there's money, the fighters appear, don't they?
Absolutely. Especially, we've heard Rogan talk about this a lot of the time in commentary or other sources where he talks about when you've got a champion that's so much further ahead than the rest of the field. Initially, it might seem a little bit dull, but in time, the rest of the competition is going to rise to that level eventually. It might take a couple of years, but it'll happen. I mean, we've got a 145-pound division in Bellator. I don't know how deep per se that division is, but they've got wait. No, I'm thinking of a 125. I think Bellator has a 45 division as well, but I think that was kind of maybe just to try and get things going. Like, I believe they have Marlos Kunin, who Cyborg's already fought twice. But yeah, it's tough to say. Like, we'll see some more people come up. Right now, Megan Anderson is definitely the biggest name in terms of who Cyborg hasn't fought at 145, and I don't think Anderson could fight at 35 if she wanted to. So,
do you have any thoughts on Ronda Rousey and the WWE and what her role there is going to be? Like, is she going to be in the ring all the time battling for the championship?
Honestly, I've got very little experience looking at sports entertainment and wrestling, so I really just don't know where she would fit in that world, although my guess is that she's probably going to look to start a family in the next couple of years, so probably nothing too crazy physically.
All right, and lastly about Cyborg, heading into this fight with Holly, I was convinced that if it ended early, it was Cyborg by knockout, but if it went past 3 rounds, that Cyborg was going to fatigue, and she really didn't. She stayed patient, and kudos to her because she did look good.
Absolutely. I think Cyborg did a fantastic job of showing that, yes, she does have big power, and yes, she can be aggressive, but yes, she's also got the cardio to be able to fight her game plan the whole way through, and she's not going to just fatigue and crumble.
Now, speaking of stamina, how about Khabib Nrmagomedov? Wow, sensational performance, dismantling Edson Barboza. Made it look easy. That guy is a true fighter. He gets control of you and you're done.
That guy both amazes and terrifies me more and more every time I see him. I've been so high on this guy since before he was having crazy injury difficulties for about a 2-year stretch a ways back. And since he's returned, it just blows me away that he's fighting even better competition than the last time every single time. And he almost looks more dominant than last time every single time.
It truly is unbelievable. I mean, the guy just keeps going. He's got a motor on him. 25-0 now. And how about post-fight with Joe Rogan? Claims that he could have kept fighting. Maybe Tony and Conor on the same night he was that fresh.
I mean, he didn't seem like he had sustained any significant damage towards the end of that fight, and Barboza almost looked like he had been through the entire fight after the first round. Sure, you could fight another fight an hour later, but maybe you can't fight Tony and Conor in the same night. Maybe he might not be so spotless afterwards, but maybe he would. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, he really is that good. And you talk about Edson Barboza, that guy's no joke. I mean, he's got some of the craziest knockouts in UFC history, and he was just dominated. And Khabib, I don't know what the secret ingredient is, but it seems like he's got expert skill on the ground. He controls the body, but not only that, he must have phenomenal power. He must be able just to manhandle you.
For sure. And I mean, clearly he's going to have incredible power, but he's got all that technique and the countless hours more experience than everybody else. I've been a super big fan of Barboza for years, and I've always admired the fact that he fights everybody, and he gets better, he has a setback, comes back, fills up some holes, gets better, setback. It never stops. He always keeps getting better, and now he's basically right behind the absolute best guys in the world. And you look at him in that fight, and he just has this expression on his face that I don't really know how this is playing out this way, but I don't really seem to be able to do much.
Just controlled from start to finish. He really did take a beating. And Khabib looks so good now. Sets him up for a spectacular run in 2018. In that division, 155, I mean, there's Conor, there's Tony Ferguson. What's next in that division? Because you got Conor talking about a rematch with Floyd. Maybe that's being shot down. Nobody seems to want that right now. I mean, how is that going to play out this year, do you think, that division?
How it will play out, I really can't say. I think your most likely scenarios are we're going to see either Conor-Tony fight and just unify the belt, and then winner of that fight and Khabib meet up down the line. Or I think the more likely spot would be we see Khabib and Tony signed maybe before the end of the spring, and then that is determined that in the summer, the winner of that fight being Khabib or Tony fights Conor on Conor's return. Now, you might see it where they strip, if it's Khabib and Tony, then they might strip Conor in the meantime, and if it ends up being Khabib, then they can do Khabib and Conor in Russia. Because really it doesn't matter if Conor has the belt or not if it's Khabib in Russia. They would do that first.
I kind of think Conor likes that idea of going to Russia to take on Khabib, pulling the old Rocky Balboa, having that moment for him. I mean, I think he likes that challenge.
That's a good line to take. I also think that if it looks in terms of if Conor is going to face a nightmare matchup, let's get paid. Khabib is the keys to Russia, and you go to Russia with Khabib, you might have a terrible night, but you're going to sell out.
Yeah, no kidding, because it is a terrible matchup for Conor if he gets him on the ground. I mean, Conor's going to have to hire a whole new set of coaching, and I don't know if there's enough time. All right, okay, Stipe Miocic, big fight coming up with a beast, Francis Ngannou. I'm on the edge of my seat for this one. I'm not sure if Stipe is overconfident or if he's simply trying to motivate himself, but he just tweeted out the other day this, and quote, Andrei Arlovsky, round 1, 54 seconds, check. Fabrizio Verdum, round 1, 2 minutes 47 seconds, check. Alistair Overeem, round 1, 4 minutes 27 seconds, check. Junior Dos Santos, round 1, 2 minutes 22 seconds, check. Francis Ngannou, January 20th, with the hashtag and still. I mean, what do you make of this tweet? What do you make of that matchup?
Goosebumps when it comes to the matchup. And as far as the tweet goes, I don't know if he's leaving it off there because it's not, something that he can put in there as like a first round knockout or a short time frame knockout. But the fight that he doesn't mention on there is the fight right before that starts where he TKO'd Mark Hunt in the 5th round. That's the fight that I think is most relevant to looking at this matchup.
Really?
Because, absolutely. Look back at the time that fight happened. Mark Hunt had just come off the short notice defeat fighting for the title against Verdum in Mexico when he had to drop a ton of weight in just a couple weeks just to make it in the fight. Ahead of that, he was annihilating people. He was just, Mark Hunt, he's going to punch somebody and their head's going to fly off. And he's like, nope, his takedown defense is too good. And Stipe just comes in there and puts in work. Takes Mark Hunt down, crushes him, just breaks him. And that Mark Hunt didn't seem that breakable at the time. So looking forward, okay, look at Mark Hunt. Look at Francis Ngannou. They look very different. But what they're bringing into the fight is somewhat similar. Scary power, big question marks as to can this person, take this just knockout machine down? I mean, he has done it before.
So you think he's putting out a false tell with this tweet, suggesting to the world that he's going to do to Francis what he's done to all those others with the early knockouts. But in reality, you think the champ is going to try to get this one to the ground with some ground and pound?
I think he's in no real hurry to keep the fight in the one place that we know that Ngannou can.
I mean, you just look back at the Overeem fight with that thunderous it was a left hand that sort of sent Overeem into the 4th row. I mean, that was vicious.
I'm not sure if it was a hand so much of as like an anvil on a chain.
I mean, it's a scary fight from both guys' perspective because both guys have tremendous power. And if it stands up, it could be over very quickly. It could be so exciting. But now that you mention it, I never thought about Stipe taking him to the ground. That might be the ploy.
I mean, he's got the background in wrestling. We don't see him do it very often, but we've also not really seen anyone be successful against Ngannou. So, I mean, may as well look to see make him show us something from something he hasn't shown us yet.
Okay, so that fight and that card is January 20th, 2018, just a couple of weeks as we kick off the new year in style. Bellator, Rory MacDonald is fighting for the title on the very same day. Competition, they're going head to head. Your take on this?
Yeah, I think this is one of the best fights that Bellator can put on. I mean, a lot of people make the argument that Rory MacDonald could be the best in the world at welterweight today. He's certainly in the top 3, no matter how you really look at it. Douglas Lima seems to be the best welterweight right now, hands down, that Bellator has. He's a huge guy. He just finished Lorenz Larkin, who had come over from the UFC, and a lot of people were expecting big things from him. So this is a fantastic fight.
Okay, and the take on the fact that Bellator is running this event, this big fight on the same night. I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys like me double streaming it, but if you got one choice, where do you think the public goes?
In regards to where the attention's going to go, clearly the UFC's got a major leg up. They've got the heavyweight title, the light heavyweight title, which, I mean, lately they haven't been super valuable, but historically they have been. Those two fights are on the card. Everyone's going to be looking in that direction that night, except for the hardcore fans that know who Rory is, in which case I'm sure everyone's going to be checking one out and then checking out the other one later, whether they TiVo or download or stream or buy or however you look at it.
It's a good problem to have. Two big cards from two different organizations. A very good problem to have. Okay, lastly and real quick, Nate Marquardt has retired. I think it's been an illustrious career. And quickly on Carlos Condit, was it ring rust? Has the game passed him by? Should he retire? Your thoughts on both guys?
Okay, Nate Marquardt, I think we date ourselves a little bit as being fans of this guy, but he has had a ridiculously long career. I'm not going to say it's too long. It's had a lot of ups and downs, and it has had significantly less success in the last couple of years, but I've always enjoyed watching Nate Marquardt fight. I do hope that he is able to be successful in what he moves on to from here, but I'm not that interested in watching him fight much further. I think he's got nothing left to prove, and at this point, creeping on 40 with how many miles are on him in the gym, I'd just rather see him do something else. Carlos Condit, I think we might be getting into that area of discussion with him, but I think it's more of a question of looking back. A lot of the times when I've seen Carlos struggle before, as I recall, it tends to be against a lot of the longer and taller fighters. You look back at, he was losing the fight against Rory before he finished him in the third round. He was having less success. I mean, he won the fight, but it was controversial when he fought Nick Diaz for the interim title. I think he's just, his skill set at this point, we've kind of seen a bit of a game plan to defeat it, and we haven't seen a whole lot of adaptation in terms of when things are not going Carlos's way on the feet, or if he gets on the ground, he kind of will lose points trying to be active from his back, but not necessarily trying to get up. I had just seen a tweet earlier today, or maybe it was an article if I'm remembering that incorrectly, but Matt Brown talked about coming back to fight Carlos Condit. As I remember correctly, I think it was supposed to be in Australia a couple of years ago. We were supposed to get that fight. I wouldn't be upset if I don't see either guy fight anymore, but I would definitely be happy if we got to see Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown before they both took their sunset in the sport.
Absolutely, that would be quite a tilt, and I think both guys would enjoy it and leave the ring with smiles. I wish you a Happy New Year, my man. I know I'm a few days late. Over the holidays, you were busy. The A-Team charity stream for Reg Charity, which is Raising for Effective Giving, put on by our friend and yours, Aaliyah, at El Sriracha on Twitter. You were a big part of this, man. I didn't realize this until just now, but you took part in this big charity stream. Good job.
First off, I definitely wasn't a big part. That was Aaliyah's show. I was trying to be supportive, check in on the stream here and there. And then there was one day during the 24-hour stream that she did that I came over and was a little bit of a part of it.
Well, you helped out, and she did a great job. We had her on the show to talk about it. Over the holidays, she went to work, and as you mentioned, you helped out, but she raised a lot of money, didn't she?
I'm super proud of her. I believe it was over 50,000, and I believe that was an American figure. So that's mind blowing. I'm so glad that she was that she decided to do it, and then she was that successful. That's fantastic.
Yeah, she raised $25,000 on the stream, and I think one of the big name pros, it might have been Dan Smith, matched it for making it over 50 grand. So kudos to you and kudos to her. It's going to be an exciting year of MMA, my friend. I hope you enjoy it. Good start talking to you. Michael Mahar at Michael Marbled on Twitter. Thanks so much for your time, man. We'll talk to you later this month after that January 20th card with the 2 title fights.
And Rory's fight. We'll talk about that one for sure.